The Rain's coffee break. Now, last week, if you were paying attention, they were talking about climate change and its impact on the agriculture sector. What with the warmer temperatures and the frequent floods and the drought, all of that combined, it's also felt that this phenomenon may be one of the factors affecting the increased occurrence of plant and animal pests such as the beet armyworm, now affecting the parishes of Manchester and St. Elizabeth. Our guest this morning is here to tell us about this and what the Ministry of Agriculture and RADA are doing to help farmers combat this army of worms, so to speak. She is Mrs. Francine Webb-Lawrence, Senior Plant Health and Food Safety Specialist at RADA. I want to say good morning to you and welcome to AgroBuzz. Welcome to RGR.
Thank you. Good morning to you and to your listeners.
All right. I think, first of all, a lot of people are wondering, why do we call it the beet armyworm?
Well, this particular pest, this insect pest, is a nocturnal pest, meaning they are very active at night, and they operate largely within large groups. So they are very fast acting, and a farmer, you'll have an infestation, and the crop will go down very fast because of how they operate, which is why we call them army. And I think in the past, the beet itself has been affected quite largely by this particular insect pest.
But of course, they're branched off to some of the other crops.
Well, they have a very wide host range.
Okay.
Scallion and onion in Jamaica, we know, is preferred. They are preferred by this pest, but they can feed on a wide variety of crops.
In general, how has that been affecting farmers and their livelihood?
What has been happening is that this particular pest is wherever it occurs in the world, it is a very difficult pest to manage. And that is something I think we all have to appreciate. What is happening is that this pest has been recorded from as far back as in the 1970s in Jamaica. And within the areas affected in St. Elizabeth and Manchester, this has been a recurring problem from as far back as the 1990s. This is due largely to a number of factors. One, we had the introduction of new scallion varieties that provided far more food. There was increase in production of scallion and onion in those areas, as well as the unique climatic conditions within those areas. Water is very scarce. With the increased drought that we were having, those periods followed by long periods of rain facilitated increased growth in your plants, which provided more food, which also assisted in the increase in the population and subsequent outbreaks that we observed.
So, of course, now Manchester and St. Elizabeth are on the radar, primary concern. Is there a fear that other parishes are in danger?
What the beet armyworm is distributed right across the island. The reasons why we have that particular problem in those areas is because the majority of the scallion that is produced in Manchester and in St. Elizabeth. What also we notice with that is that because of how the scallion is grown in St. Elizabeth, whereas it is not harvested and the field is destroyed, you have a field that is going for many, many years, sometimes up to 20 years. It provides a constant supply of food, and that is not the situation with other crops across the island or wherever else scallion is grown as well. Another thing, too, is that because this pest feeds inside the leaf, it is well protected a lot of times from the pesticide interventions with the insecticidal sprays that the farmers have been using. So it is quite challenging, coupled with the unique conditions that the area presents as well. Another trigger is also the market price. Once the price for scallion goes down, there is generally, it becomes much harder for the farmers to maintain their fields. So in terms of purchasing of insecticidal sprays and putting additional labor into these fields, it becomes very challenging for the farmers once the price goes down, and that we have observed too has become a trigger for increasing population of the beet armyworm.
So the farmers slack off and the beet armyworm takes advantage of that lapse in spring, and they get to frolic and breed up.
Exactly. And if you miss the window of opportunity for management of this pest, the management is going to become increasingly more difficult. The larger worms, this particular pest has an egg stage, it has a worm stage, and it pupates where it falls to the ground, rests for about a week, and then the adult will emerge. The very large worms are very tolerant to the insecticide sprays. So if you are able to spray them as well, you will not get much results from that. What we are advocating for the farmers to do is to scout their fields at least 2 to 3 times per week with this increase in population, and you look out for egg sacs. These are very small, almost like cottony masses, usually on the tips of the leaves, right? Once you see those, these egg masses can hold within, from a range of 50 to sometimes over almost 200 eggs. So quite a number of worms can emerge from these, and especially if you have an increase in the number of eggs that you're seeing, egg sacs that you're seeing now, the population will, in a matter of 2 to 3 days, increase significantly if that is not checked. The window of opportunity that I mentioned is for that period when they will hatch. They will feed largely in groups once they hatch before they will then bore the leaf and feed within the leaf there. That is the period that we're saying farmers, once they see egg sacs, within 2 to 3 days, they must come out and do their insecticidal sprays. If it is possible as well, it will also be beneficial for the farmers to actually go through and crush those egg sacs, because you'll be targeting sometimes over 100 potential worms as well. So for areas such as Comer Pen, moving on to Bull Savannah, where the infestation from New Forest in Manchester is moving across as well, we are really imploring the farmers to go through, look for the egg sacs, come out with the insecticidal sprays. If your fields are small enough, go through and crush those egg sacs, because that will also reap quite a number of benefits.
So just put on your water boot and trample them.
Trample, trample, trample.
All right. That sounds like some of the practical steps the farmers can take. Can you speak to some of the initiatives, strategies that RADA might be considering to ensure that the situation is controlled and properly managed?
Okay. What we do routine monitoring of the population. Like I mentioned before, with this population, with this particular pest, the infestation can increase pretty rapidly. The numbers will go up, even though you would have checked sometime maybe a week ago. The numbers can be very different in the week coming based on what is happening. So what the ministry has been doing, they have allocated some resources to assist the farmers. So what our officers are doing, we're assessing the damage to see how the ministry can provide some assistance to the farmers with this devastation that is happening. Another thing that we're doing too is we're going around and we're having some sensitization sessions with the farmers to ensure that they remember that, especially for areas that are not as infected now but are under threat based on what is happening in New Forest, for them to increase their scouting activities. Do not lapse in your management practices. Harvest your crop once it is mature, because leaving that will also ensure that you provide more food for the pest. So,
no, go ahead, sorry.
Okay, we're also doing training sessions with smaller farmer groups, especially in the New Forest area, reminding them what the different stages look like, what they need to look out for, so that they can effectively put in those management strategies. We are also providing pheromone scepters or pheromone lures to the farmers. This is a device. It's a little rubber bong that can be set up in a plastic gallon bottle that you use in order to assist in monitoring of the beet armyworm population. So the officers have been going out and giving and assisting farmers in establishing these pheromone traps. Ideally, we'd want the farmers to use that even outside of an outbreak, with a beet armyworm outbreak, because it gives you a pretty good idea of what the levels of the population is like in the field. So this pheromone, it's the female beet armyworm gives off a particular scent that attracts the males to her, and that is the chemical that is manufactured, that is impregnated in this little rubber bong that you set up in the field. The males are attracted towards it, and what you'll have in the base of the bottle is soap water. They come towards where the scent is strongest, and they will drown in the water at the bottom of the trap. So what it does is that it will give you an indication of what the levels, the number of adults that you have in the field. Adults in the field indicate that you will have quite a bit of eggs that are being laid. So that will also help in triggering that. Listen, if you see the numbers going up, then you need to step up with your management practices.
Makes sense. All right. And, of course, if they have any other concerns or questions, they can not only visit the websites, but get in touch with the RADA Parish Office, Extension Officers, the Minister of Agriculture, all of that, huh?
Very much so.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I think you've given them more than adequate information to act on, and let's hope we can bring this all under control in the shortest possible time. Thanks again, huh?
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
All right. All the best to you. That's Mrs. Francine Webb-Lawrence, Senior Plant Health and Food Safety Specialist at RADA, as we continue to share with you the beet armyworm and how farmers can combat that pest. Farmers need our support at this time and always, so let us continue to support them by eating what they grow as they grow what we eat. And keep listening to AgroBuzz for more information on the work of the Minister of Agriculture, Commerce, and Fisheries, Industry, Commerce, Agriculture, and Fisheries. And you may visit their website at moa.gov.jm or miic.gov.jm. You can also follow them on Twitter and like them on Facebook. And join us again next Wednesday morning, same time, for another AgroBuzz.